Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Wherever you are, how you might be listening, thank you for making this part of your day. We are the Hockey Podcast that you're about to hear. I am Justin,
I'm Alexander.
and we thank you for listening. And remember, if life hands you melons, you might be dyslexic. And on that note, where do you want to start tonight, Alexander?
Well, from our last podcast, this last month has brought us a whole bunch of stories to talk about.
Say it
A whole bunch of
quiet.
things that have happened that are worthy of discussing and taking in. I guess starting maybe even outside of hockey games directly is the firing of Don Cherry. Long time personality
Very, very long time.
For Sportsnet and other programs. It's an interesting story. Obviously, if you're listening to the podcast and you listen to a hockey podcast and don't know who Don Cherry is, I don't know that I can help you by trying to give you a ton of backstory.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's
Mhm.
if you know hockey, you probably know who Don Cherry is, and
You probably heard this story
You
at
probably
least
know
once
he
or
was
twice.
fired,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
probably heard somebody talk about this already. But hey, let's kick it around the can a little bit more.
You haven't heard us talk about it
Exactly.
yet, so
Yeah. So you haven't heard the definitive discussion on this.
that's right.
So, Justin, let's start with you. You heard Don Cherry was fired. You heard the reasons why, or guessed as to why. What were your takeaways?
I think it's probably a lot due to this day and age, because I'm sure he said stuff like that before. Because he's been doing this, since the 90s, 80s?
He has, and some people have said that this isn't even the most outlandish or insulting,
Yeah.
insensitive thing that he's said in his career, but this apparently is the right time to get him canned.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Probably this day and age where everything's just on social media.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh my word, did you hear he said this? Oh, yeah, oh, no.
Yep.
So,
No, I definitely think it is something that he said that came at the wrong time, but
Mhm.
I think what got lost in this whole thing was that he was trying to make a point, and it wasn't specifically a point about immigration in Canada.
correct.
He was trying to make a point about supporting the military during Veterans Day.
Yes.
And that whole discussion that he was trying to make a point on suddenly got completely covered up and ignored. I haven't heard anybody talk about it. Okay, so what about the point he was trying to, even though he made it poorly, even though he chose poor words and was insensitive in areas, or however you want to
That's
have
just
it,
who he is, though.
or just who he is,
Mhm.
and whether or not that should or shouldn't cost him his job. Obviously, that's a decision made by your employer as to what does and doesn't cost you your job. It's not necessarily up to him at that point. I could see where maybe if he would have been immediately issuing some sort of an apology, and
Which rumor has it that he was waiting until next show to apologize the next week.
then that shows you how out of touch you are with
Mhm.
how
Social
how
media.
fast
Yeah.
things happen in the world, right? That he probably could have saved his job.
Right.
And now, whether or not that would have saved his job, because I can see where maybe at some point, Don Cherry wasn't going to be who he was for that network anymore.
Mhm.
They had to get there at some point, somehow.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're the network and you're like, you know what, now's as good a time as any, we have probable cause,
Mm-hmm.
pull the trigger and let him go.
Yeah. See, I never watched the show anyway, so I never really knew who
Agreed.
he was until last year when the whole bunch of jerks thing came out. It's like,
Right.
oh, okay, well, I don't really like him, so
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
really care.
No, he was, such a part of Canadian hockey culture
Yes.
for everybody in Canada that watch hockey.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily know that we have a good American version of that, unless it's
No.
maybe like some old who's the guy that called baseball games for the Cubs?
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Anyway, his name escapes me for the moment, but somebody like that everybody in the country knew who he was, knew what he was famous for, and even if you weren't a fan of whatever he was doing, it's like you still paid attention. And I feel like that was Don Cherry for that. Who we got here? Harry Carey. Harry
Mhm.
Carey. Yeah, so I can kind of picture maybe what it would look like for that to happen in America, but like I feel like he was even more beloved than anything that we have in America as far as a sports commentating.
So the only thing I think of maybe like Al
figure.
Michaels or something.
Maybe, but
Because
yeah,
he's covered enough, but
yeah,
definitely not Chris Collinsworth. So
no. And certainly nobody in the hockey community. You
Right,
know?
yeah.
I mean, for as much as I like Doc Emmerich, there's the same number of people that think he, over dramatizes the game too much. So,
it's kind of always paid to do that.
yeah, but clearly the guys that are in these positions for hockey are the ones that over dramatize things,
Mhm.
like Cherry did.
Yeah.
So no, I think a more, I would say a more important conversation, a different conversation got lost in this whole thing, and that's kind of what I'm disappointed by.
Yeah.
Whether or not they fired him or didn't fire him for racially insensitive comments or what you want to call it, or for just being old school or backwards thinking or whatever
Being Don Cherry.
Yeah, or just being Don Cherry.
Mm-hmm.
Again, why a company chooses to fire or not fire somebody, I'm not going to throw my hands up too crazy high unless it's, wait a minute, this is clearly wrong.
Something's kind of fishy here.
Yeah. And so I guess I was just disappointed that a bigger conversation got lost that could have been had on a national level, and instead it turned into what it turned into.
Mm-hmm.
So,
the old dumpster fire.
yeah, speaking of dumpster fires, the Detroit Red Wings. Nope.
Wait,
not where we're going.
Wrong fire.
Yeah. No, my only comment on the fact that I'm a Red Wings fan and the Red Wings are considered a dumpster fire, at this point a dumpster fire is an appealing option to what is currently happening in Detroit.
It's an upgrade.
Yes. So when we get to dumpster fire in Detroit, we'll talk about them. But until things get better, to that point, they're not really worth talking about.
So what's below dumpster fire? Is it just a picture of the Red Wings, or is there another example?
At this point, it's probably just the Red Wings logo splash with their record next to it and their losing streaks. And their, it's like if the whole landfill was on fire.
There you go.
Which we had happen.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, a few years back. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was a double dumpster fire of
pretty horrendous. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, to a different dumpster fire.
Right.
So when Babcock was fired by Toronto, that was a big story in and of itself.
Oh yeah. Well, that was a big story before he got fired too.
It was. It's been something we've been leading up to for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I think justifiably so, because the expectations in Toronto are extremely high. The amount of money they're paying to certain players to make some runs at cups that's not happening is understandably a problem if it's not getting the results that they were hoping for. And that maybe Mike Babcock was just a little out of touch with how the NHL is played today and how you need to communicate with players.
Which I can see that quite a bit.
Use their it's like your best players have to be your best players, and he seemed to still think that his best players played third and fourth line, and they were just as valuable as the guys on top line. It didn't mesh, and everybody could see it didn't mesh very well. And then when you have playoff failures over and over again, I honestly was surprised that he survived the offseason, because I really thought that you kind of have to change direction here, because what hasn't worked for 2 years or 3 years isn't working. But that being said, they chose to try and make it work this year, and it didn't. And so he was fired. They're bringing their AHL coach up to take over the team.
Which sounds like he was probably going to replace him at whatever point anyway.
It was just kind of like, he's been waiting in the wings for a little while. He's kind of been handpicked for this spot. So whenever you get to the point where we can fire you, or hoist a Stanley Cup and you retire, or your contract runs out.
Keep a bunch of microphones around him. Maybe he'll say something.
Yeah. So the way out for Babcock was coming.
Yeah.
The question of, okay, well, if they don't make the playoffs, then, or if they make the playoffs and don't win the Stanley Cup, or
don't even get out the first round.
First round, second round, where was the line for him? It was somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So, not surprising to see him fired. Maybe a little surprising to see when he was fired.
In the middle of a road trip?
In the middle of a road trip. It's like, boy, what tipped the balance now for this to happen?
The save!
The save. The Marc-Andre Fleury save. What were your thoughts on the Marc-Andre Fleury save?
I thought that was quite impressive.
Saves the game and ends a career?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Just chalk it up to Fleury,
Well, and Fleury is an athletic goaltender.
Yes.
Right? He is not...
Yes, he is.
One of these big 6'4", 5, 6'7" guys that are in the league now that on their knees their head still comes to the crossbar.
Yeah. That all they got to do is just have good positioning and they're fine.
Yeah. That basically they just kind of hold still and you can shoot around them or it hits their body. One of the two.
Right.
Fleury is very much a get in the right position, make the save, as opposed to, the save happened.
Right.
Much in the same vein of Jonathan Quick.
Yes.
And the life expectancy of that active of a goaltender
not very long.
isn't very high, and there were some thoughts that maybe Flower had kind of crested the hill a bit.
Peaked a little bit.
But he is still capable of making a save that just makes you just kind of drop the remote and go, did I just watch that happen?
Like, I know that happened against my own team, but I can't even be mad about that. I want to be mad, but...
Sometimes you just kind of have to slow clap,
Uh-huh,
you know?
exactly.
And,
tip your hat and move on.
And just be like, cheers to you, sir. That was well played. How you feel if you're the player that shot that puck is just kind of like, are you kidding me? Like, it was a wide open net, and just his glove snapped right out of the air. It's like, no goal.
Yeah, just kind of look up to the Jumbotron and skate back. Pretty much all you can do.
Yep. And then, who was it the night after that?
Was
Rask? Yeah.
Yep.
Made, I don't know this as spectacular of a save, but still, another absolutely...
Yeah, some people are saying it's more spectacular, but it's like, yes, he uses blocker hand, which I get there's no padding, but the amount of space that he reached out to make the save was like half, if not a third, of what Fleury did.
Right. Yep. Yeah. And was it at a critical moment in the game? Is my because this kind of comes back to conversations we've had, I believe, off mic of if you look at like goal of the year. Do you take into context? Oh, it was an overtime. Oh, they were already up 5-0. Oh, they were down 5-0.
Oh, he's getting tackled and happens to put it on the net and it goes in.
Situational goals that are then spectacular also in nature, to me, get a much higher grade than a goal that just happens. That was an amazing goal.
Like for me, obviously, I'm going to pick Matthew Tkachuk's overtime.
Yeah, I mean, you win the game on a shot like that.
With under 2 seconds left.
Between your legs from the dots.
Yeah.
Is like one time behind your legs.
Yeah.
From the dots and up into the corner is phenomenal.
Right.
Right. And I can't see a goal that takes place that's just another goal in the game as goal of the year, just because it's spectacular in nature. Because they're all impossible for anybody else other than these guys to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's a very good point. So, I don't even know if I could skate to the goal to try and score. So.
At least like the Svechnikov one in Carolina, the lacrosse style goal.
Had to bring that up.
Well, at least when he does that, they're down a goal.
Yes. Changes
the momentum of the third period. They end up winning the game.
And that was one. It's like, okay, I got a slow clap to that one because that was pretty incredible.
And so, when it comes to saves, getting back to what I'm rambling on about, is that the save that he makes, that Fleury makes, does keep the game from being tied in the third period.
Yeah, it was big.
Big moment, big save. So that to me is of a much higher caliber than saves that don't come at critical moments.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Like, save of the year better be in the third period, and better be in a tie game, or a game that you are different by one goal, and it changes the outcome in some way.
Or he saves it and dishes it to his guy, and they go down and score or something.
Make the save, get the assist. That would be that'd be a nice one. Yeah. Don't get me started on goaltenders that have assists, because the Red Wings have a goaltender that has more assists than like half the players on the team. So yeah, when your goaltender has more points than you do already in the season,
that's a bad sign.
It's a bad thing.
He plays half the games, 3/4 of the games that you play. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. So and if he could get an empty net goal somehow at some point, he'd be like the third leading goal scorer on the team. So yeah, it's anyway.
Yeah. So I've been, speaking of saves and stuff, watching Riddick. He got the second start this week. He's been finding his groove.
Absolutely,
which has been amazing, and definitely the timing on it has been pretty nice for him finding his groove too.
I say they need something to go right there.
Yes,
and at least he's going right.
Yes, he is. He's keeping us in a lot of games. Which at the beginning of the season, I'm like, I don't think we'll lose many games from him, but I don't think he'll steal us many games. I'd venture to say he's stolen a game or two.
He's got a burglar costume on.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah. That's good. What else is going on in Calgary that we should talk about?
Oh, yeah.
Was there anything else?
Yeah, the second coach firing, Or actually, technically, it wasn't firing. I feel like it was you can quit or you're fired. So, a second coach departure. As we both predicted accurately at the beginning of this season, was Bill Peters.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
No, that was our Western Conference or Pacific Division champion, I believe, for both of us.
No, I had Vegas.
No, we had Vegas, but then we had
I had Flames second or third in the Pacific.
Yeah, it was just like,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We were high on Calgary, and yes. Apparently we were just high.
Yeah.
Not
right?
that we... No.
Don't direct us.
It's a joke. It's a joke if you're listening.
Internet. Calm down, Internet. It's fine. Yes. So, I mean... It's kind of a shame, especially what he did last year. But for how he's been doing this year, it kind of seems like players have already quit on him.
I would agree with that. You can tell, it seems like, whether it was in Toronto or in Calgary, that players have kind of quit on the coach.
Yes. And if, the allegations about the language as well as, like, the hitting and kicking, if that's coming true, I mean, the first year you can probably hide it pretty well. But the second year, spend another off-season with them, spend another training camp, all that stuff, it's probably going to be like, hey, wait a minute. This guy is kind of a jerk. Like, I don't really want to play for him. I just want to collect a paycheck. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it had to happen, but at the same time, it's like, man, what? I mean, I get why I couldn't say anything 10 years ago. In a difficult position to come forward like that.
For the player.
For the player.
For the players involved that didn't say anything till now.
Yes. So I mean, it was kind of weird, but I mean, I'm of two minds. I mean, like, yes, you need to watch your mouth and watch your language and not be derogatory. Also, that was 10 years ago. And if you're going to go after him for saying that word, then you need to go after every other coach and every other player.
And they just might do that.
And they might. But the only thing that keeps me on the other side is the physical stuff, too. Which that was more recent. That was in Carolina. So it's like, okay, yeah, he's got to go. He's got to go.
And part of my... There's obviously this story's still going because just because Treliving has come out and said, okay, he's resigned, I accepted his resignation, here's our new, interim coach, move the assistant up, and we're going to go forward, and we're moving on. The league is still behind the scenes talking to people, we assume, looking at things
doing their investigation.
Because if somebody, not that they would want to, but if somebody wanted to hire Bill Peters right now, because he's available for hire.
Yes, he is.
And he wanted to go work for them, with the league like, no, we need to suspend him because we need to set some sort of precedent, and they haven't done that. So it's assumed that the league is still working behind the scenes because this thing continues to evolve as, okay, well, this happened here, this person knew about it, did they or did not do anything? Okay, well, now they work over here, is something going on here, there's things involving Ron Francis now, there's things involving other coaches, not even necessarily part of this particular tree of coaches and GMs of where you've worked and what has and hasn't been done, but other things that now it's kind of opening up this door to things being
the quote unquote Me Too movement for the hockey world.
And part of the issue I almost have of calling it the Me Too movement is Me Too was things that happened that were illegal, and horrific, and complete violations of people.
Correct.
This is guys that got called derogatory terms, taking offense to it.
Yeah.
Which you can totally take offense to that. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be. But to put those on the same level of, okay, now we have license to come out about this, in my mind is totally different because one is a legal issue of crimes that were committed. It's not necessarily a crime to...
And I think that's kind of where
use derogatory terms toward people. It is extremely wrong and rude and it should not be done and cannot be condoned. But it's totally different from the actual Me Too movement. And in some ways, I almost feel like slights that movement as like, oh yeah, we're having a Me Too moment now in hockey. Where now any player can get on Twitter at any point they want and accuse past coaches of whatever they want. And maybe that's happening behind the scenes.
Could be.
Which, again, I know if you don't trust the establishment to protect the players, because maybe that's been happening, then they do need to go public. And that way does kind of share the Me Too moment, because obviously things weren't handled behind the scenes there.
Right.
But I don't look at these two things as similar enough to draw comparisons. I see the NHL thing as a completely separate thing that needs to be fixed, and I have issues with how they aren't fixing it. But again, that will just be my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that. Like I say, if it wasn't for the physical quote unquote abuse, I don't know if you want to call it abuse or not, I would have a lot harder time with his resignation. But since that was so recent, I'm like, it's 10 years ago. Like,
yeah, and
it was wrong, but
And where I feel bad for it, I feel bad for the Calgary Flames because they had no way this was on this guy's history.
Also that.
Yeah, and there's no way you're going to vet somebody and be like, have you at any point said anything that could come back against you? It's like, if you spend any time around a hockey rink, you're going to hear and see things that are like, that's really not acceptable in
There's a reason public. They don't have on-ice mics during the games.
Certainly not on television unless, you're hoisting the Stanley Cup, in which case apparently anything goes.
Anything goes then, yeah, it's fine.
But, I mean, I understand, like, if a coach is kicking a guy behind the bench or hitting him aside the head or whatnot.
Yes.
That's wrong. He's also a hockey player that plays a game where it's legal to go plow your body into a man and knock him down. It's not like you're in an office setting and your boss is physically abusive.
Well, yeah, but the puck isn't anywhere nearby him, so...
Maybe the puck was coming along the boards and... Yeah, no. No, if those things are all true, and then from everything we've heard, they are true.
It was very quickly corroborated, I believe.
And so, well, then that is the case. And yes, you should do something about that.
Yes.
Whether or not firing a guy or forcing him to resign is the right thing, because at some point there has to be an avenue of correction, of admittance, of acceptance, forgiveness. Like, just to say you did these things in your past, okay, then you can't work here anymore. You did these things in your past, can't work here anymore.
That'd eliminate a lot of people in their current jobs.
It would. It would, because we've all made mistakes in the past. And what kind of bothers me about this is that Bill Peters didn't come out and say, yes, these things are true. Yes, these things are true. I apologize to those that were affected. I should have apologized. There wasn't a contrite heart.
There's kind of a blanket apology.
There was a lawyer apology.
Yes.
Which I understand for legal reasons, because like, okay, well now if we fire you, we have to pay you, but if you resign, we can work out a deal on the side of compensation and stuff, and you don't get fired in disgrace, you resign before things got really bad, and it saves us the headache of... I understand why they did it that way.
Oh, yeah.
But there has to be, just as a person, a desire to do the right thing. And that's where I'm disappointed, because I don't feel like Bill Peters has done the right thing in the public eye of what should be done. When you have public allegations against you, there should be a public apology.
Right.
Unless you're not sorry. And maybe he's not, because right now I would have no way of knowing if he's actually sorry for what he did or not.
Right.
Or if he feels he was in the wrong for anything he said or did, because it was just such a generic blob of an apology that I can't really understand where he's at. And so, yeah, don't be the coach. I'm fine with that.
Right.
But do it better.
Yeah.
You could resign and still apologize.
Yes. Very true. Do you think you'll have a coach again in the NHL?
I would say no. And I know he's not, up there in years to where he's like at the twilight of his coaching career. And like 10 years from now, sure, maybe somebody wants to hire him. But I think the league will change so much in 10 years, it's hard to bring a coach back from that far away. And that's true across pretty much all major sports. There's very few coaches that have been able to coach, walk away for a long period of time. Be like Tony Dungy coming back right now.
Right, yeah.
And it's just things have changed to the point where, yeah, if you're not part of the pulse,
John Cruden.
Yeah. I feel like the league is changing rapidly right now to where once you're going to be away for this game for even 3 years, it's going to be hard to come back and have the same impact. And apart from, like we said, a full apology and admittance and seeking forgiveness and restitution or whatnot, I don't see why any team would hire him. It's like, he can't be one of the 31 best coaches in the world.
Right.
And so there's no reason that a team would take that headache on.
Exactly. I think he might become like an assistant at some point down the road. I don't think anytime soon, but I don't think he'll be a head coach again.
And I can see where Babcock could be back somewhere.
He should almost be like an advisor or something.
I think it will take some time for Babcock to be away before people want to come back to him. I don't think he will get hired again this year.
Well, why would he? He's collecting a pretty hefty paycheck
he's collecting what, like
$6 million, I think.
He was the highest paid coach in the league.
Yeah.
So he's collecting that money until he hires somewhere else.
Right. It's kind of like Coach Q. Was it last year he got fired?
Yep.
I mean, he just rode it out for the rest of the season. Why wouldn't you?
He had the holidays with his family. And
no stress.
Yeah, I mean,
collecting a big paycheck.
That's a pretty good life, and then still come back to a big paycheck and a new team and whatever. Yeah. It's just when Quenneville left, he didn't have the baggage coming out that
Correct.
Babcock has coming out. So I think it could be a little bit longer for Babcock. I would say if Babcock doesn't come back, I don't think he'll get hired this year. If he doesn't come back one of the following 2 years, we probably won't see him again.
Sure.
Just because I think it would be too long out of the league.
Yeah.
Unless the league changes back to a hard nose,
Which, I mean, look at
work pail kind of thing, which I don't think it's going to. I think it's going to continue to get younger and faster, more skilled, higher scoring, less hitting, and that doesn't fit Babcock's style. Or Babcock takes this and says, I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to change the way I coach. I don't see that happening.
I don't see that either.
But if he does have that moment of, okay, I need to change what I'm doing, because there are some coaches that have done that. I know that was one of the things with Greg Berube, is that he's changed his coaching from his first gig to St. Louis.
Right.
And he's learned from that, and I know that's true.
That's working out pretty well for him.
Yeah. So I would say it's possible that we see Babcock back again, but without him changing philosophy, I don't see anybody being interested in bringing him back on.
Yeah, I know. I'm not interested in him coming to Calgary.
No, I'm not interested in him coming to Detroit.
Yeah.
The last thing a double dumpster fire needs is gasoline.
Yes.
So
let's get some rocket fuel. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, very eventful week. Although Calgary is oddly enough 2-0 since the resignation.
Right.
So
kind of like Toronto's 3-1 or
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice winning
Toronto's
streak.
playing well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, which apparently happens under coaches, because now the players are fired up and playing for them. It's like, you guys couldn't find this motivation before, but
they're
now
happy
you can.
now.
So cool.
Well, and it's just the Calgary syndrome. New coach, playoffs. Next year, no playoffs. Coach gets fired. Next year, new coach, playoffs. Next year, no playoffs. Coach is fired. So it's kind of it's a little different narrative, but same narrative.
Have you changed GMs as often as you change coaches?
No. I'm pretty sure Trevor has been. He's been there for a while now.
Because I find it.
I think we've had 8 or 9 coaches since the mid 2000s.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah.
No, I find it interesting that Brad Treliving had to be the face of the Bill Peters thing. The league didn't come out and say anything. Bill Peters didn't come out and say anything. It was players and a GM that was the public face of this. And I thought he did a fantastic job of coming out right away, saying, here's what's going on. I don't know what the answers are, but I'm telling you everything I know right now, and asking for some understanding of what I need to go get figured out. Because people always want answers right away, and they want something to happen. They want the axe to fall, and they want there to be...
Well, yeah, it's just the day and age we're in now.
Right, yeah. They want some instant gratification. And I thought, from what I can tell from what he has said and how things have went, he's handled it very, very well. And if he was my GM, I would be okay with that, just from the standpoint of he looks like he knows how to handle his business in a professional and responsible manner, particularly when things are thrown into your lap that you had no preparation for.
Yeah.
And now the whole world wants to know what you're going to do with it.
So, what are your thoughts on this? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's been, since April of 2014, he's been Calgary's GM.
So he's gone through a number of coaches.
Yes, he has.
Yes,
he has.
He's a coach killer.
Yeah, right? Don't go there. You'll be fired in 2 years.
Apparently.
Yeah.
So that's all the, I guess, divisive, controversial topics that have happened.
For now, anyway. Who knows what happens next month?
Yeah, that'll be interesting. We'll see how many more coaches get fired this month. Because usually once one starts to fall,
it's just like domino
it's
effect.
kind of like, okay, well, let's get rid of this guy. It's like we're in the coach firing season already.
Yeah. I don't want to be the first one to do it, but I want this to happen this year.
Yes. Yep. So yeah, November had 2, and we'll see what December has.
All right.
Other things that have come up this month. What else would you like to hit next?
Well, yeah, another actually kind of controversial thing, I guess, while we're kind of talking about
Still talking on that, yeah.
Is when to stop play when there's an injured player.
Or when not to stop play.
Yes.
As apparently is the case sometimes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Was it Colorado and Vancouver?
Colorado and Vancouver.
Yes.
Yep. And we're, at this point, Vancouver is down 2.
Right.
They pull their goaltender. Right. Get the 6th attacker out there. Have controlling offensive zone. A shot is taken. It deflects into one of the Colorado players' head. Mm-hmm. He collapses to the ice, goes down injured.
Yeah.
Kind of tries to get back up and goes back down. Mm-hmm. During this time, Vancouver has maintained the puck.
Yeah, and Peterson was the one that shot it, right? Elias Peterson?
Yep.
He was like...
Peterson was looking around for a whistle.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, is somebody gonna... He kind of even raised his hand almost like to say, hey, to the bench, like, hey, get your trainer out here. But Vancouver maintained the puck. Therefore, technically, it's a judgment call by the official as to whether or not a player is injured to the point where they need to stop play and attend him, which they have the power to do so.
Right.
Or let play continue until Colorado touches the puck and has possession, and then can stop it for that.
Right.
So, 2 reasons to stop it. Either Colorado gets it, okay, you have possession, we'll stop the play for your player, or this is so bad, doesn't matter who has the puck, we need to stop it.
Right.
They did not blow the whistle.
No.
For 4 or 5 seconds, which feels like an eternity when you're watching it and you see a guy on the ice and another player for the other team concerned for him.
Which I feel like that should have been the first cue.
But Vancouver does score.
Mm-hmm. Did they tie it up then?
That was just to cut the lead to 1.
Okay.
They then eventually did tie it up and went to overtime, in which Colorado won because I think Colorado had a rage machine and Nathan McKinnon that said, I'm just going to end this game. Because he ended it like 25, 30 seconds into the game.
Yeah.
In classic McKinnon fashion, which is just a crazy fast, strong guy skating around people and then taking a wicked snap wrist shot from the top of the circles, essentially, and putting it in the corner. I've seen him do that a number of times, and it's a wicked skill to have. Mm-hmm. But should they have stopped the play?
I feel like they should have, because I think it's been a while since I've seen the replay, but I think you clearly see it made contact with his head.
I believe it's pretty obvious that, yes, it does hit him somewhere above the shoulders.
Yes. And so I think at that point, concussions, head injuries, that should have been like, okay, well, we're going to err on the side of caution and blow this one dead. If it hit him in the shin, knee, elbow, stomach, and he's like...
non-life-threatening injury.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And he's laying down on the ground, he tries to get back up, but he can't put any weight on his ankle. That's another story, but at least he's probably sitting up at that point, or kneeling at that point, trying to skate around.
He's still trying to fight in the play.
Yes.
Right.
Because he's a hockey player, that's what they do. I mean, but he was down and out and tried to get up and back down.
Agreed. So tell me this. If a goaltender gets a puck to the head and he just collapses to the ice, do you blow the whistle?
I don't know. Does his helmet stay on or does it come off?
His helmet stays on because this guy's helmet stayed on. You couldn't see any blood or anything.
Right.
But if you hit a goaltender in the head and he goes straight down, and they're all about protecting the goaltender or whatnot, don't they blow the whistle?
I think I've seen that a few times.
I've seen them blow the whistle for things that... Now, this year we've seen it both ways, to where a goaltender was injured and they didn't stop the play. Jimmy Howard's case, but he was still trying to play.
Right, yeah.
I feel like if a goaltender gets hit in the head, the puck bounces away, and he just collapses and isn't trying to get back up.
Yeah, they should blow the dead, 100%.
That you would blow it dead. Mm-hmm. If you hit an official in the head with the puck,
do
you think they blow the whistle?
Oh, yeah.
For a non-player.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't be any different for a guy standing out at the point that takes a slap shot to the head.
Yes, I agree.
Particularly if you can tell it's to the head. I know, yes, it drew blood, but you couldn't tell that initially.
Until he got up, yeah.
Until he gets up and you can see, okay, there's blood on the ice. Mm-hmm. He's leaking from the head.
Yes. Yes.
Which at that point, if you saw it, you would immediately stop play.
Yes.
But I feel like I understand why the rule is the way it is, because ultimately, everything does come down to a judgment call by an official.
Right.
Unless it's offside, in which case you should be able to freeze frame at 1,000 different angles and still not be able to tell, and still have to make a judgment call. That should be like a black and white thing, but it's not.
Yeah,
or
I think they
whether
need
the
to change
puck crosses
that rule.
the line or doesn't cross the line.
Yeah.
But goaltender interference and what's holding, what's cross-checking, what's tripping, what's... So this is still a judgment call by the officials. Mm-hmm. And I can see where you could, again, get into an area of, okay, if we see a puck hit a guy in the head and he goes down and doesn't get right back up, we will blow the play dead.
Yes.
Well, now you have opened it up to the law of unintended consequences, where it's going to hit them in the lower shoulder, like in the shoulder area, and it's going to look like the head because they're going to throw their head back and collapse the ice.
Right. See, that's where I think you should be able to review it, because later, I'm not talking during the game, I'm talking about later, and if you think he flopped just to get the whistle, suspend him.
Okay.
5 games, 10 games, whatever.
Okay.
Drop the hammer, like, hard. So people don't do that. It's the whole reason.
So basically supplemental discipline for blatant diving.
Correct. The embellishment, yeah. Because that's...
In an injury department.
Yes.
Not just like, oh, this guy's stick was near my feet and I fell down kind of thing.
Right, yeah. I mean, leave that how it is.
Yeah, that's still part of the art of the game.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Unless the ref has, like, the perfect view and, oh, his stick never got close to your face, dude. Get over here, man.
That's a Lindell. Again? What?
Yeah. But, I mean, that's what they had to do in the NFL. Players with fake injuries, so they started doing, if it's, like, under 2 minutes in the second or fourth quarter or something like that, you lose a timeout.
Yeah.
So do some kind of supplementary discipline so that it keeps the cases more authentic.
That or, and as I'm thinking about this, is probably not a great idea, is that if a player does have a stoppage for a whistle because he's injured, he's not allowed to come back into the game for a duration of time.
No, I would agree with that too. He should go to the training room.
The issue with that, though, then is a referee prematurely blows the whistle thinking a guy's injured, and the guy's like, no, I'm not hurt. Why'd you stop the game? Now I can't play for another 5 minutes, and it's Connor McDavid in the playoffs.
Right, yeah.
Then we've created a
Game
whole new
7.
issue. Right.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, too.
And I know referees are going to call different guys different ways just from reputation, right? So, like, if Milan Lucic does something on the edge, it's probably going to get called. Yeah. If Crosby does something on the edge, it won't even be talked about.
No.
And so...
He'll probably draw a penalty.
You call things different for different guys. So you got to know the guy in that situation, does he have a history of embellishing? Yes or no? I don't know. Then he doesn't, and therefore he's probably injured.
Right.
If it's a guy that you've seen on tape and the league has said, this guy's kind of done this before, this guy's kind of done this before, then you're looking for that, and you can either not blow the play dead or issue an embellishment penalty if he gets up and he's not bleeding, or it's like, oh, no, broken. I'm smiling, gotcha.
Yeah, it goes back to the bench and it's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. But in the moment, it still comes down to a judgment call for the referee. And the rules are what they are.
Yeah.
And the NHL said we're not changing the rules.
Yeah, which, I mean...
It's like, okay, then, at least we all know what the rules are.
Right.
We just don't know how they're going to be enforced.
Right, which is awesome.
Which is the way they all are.
Yeah.
Honestly. Like, the human element of the game, we talk about it with the officials. How many goals don't go in because a guy didn't put the shot where he wanted to put the shot? Human error. How many goals go in because the goalie didn't play it the way he wanted to play it? Human error. Right. It's all part of the game. We just notice it more with the officials because we slow their stuff down. We never slow down replays of goals that didn't get scored because the guy made a bad pass.
Well, it's like trying to tap the game, and it's like...
Yeah, or you have a player open for a breakaway and you didn't see him. Well, human error.
Yeah, right. Well, that raises the question, though, of something I've been thinking about for a while, is like, what if they just go back to, like... And I've heard some, other people talking about, too, which kind of gets me an idea, but doing the 3 officials / linesmen and put an eye in the sky, or make it so the linesmen can have a little bit more power.
Well, then you might have to give them like a different colored stripe or something. Like there's the orange stripe, and then
there's the green stripe.
Yeah.
Or yellow, since it's not quite as bad.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, at least with the eye in the sky, he would be able to wind that back and be like, oh no, yeah, he's
have a big red button that says "push in case of emergency," and watch that and be like, whoa, this guy's down, this guy's hurt. Which maybe categorically I'm not opposed to. I still think we're going to get to the playoffs, and we're going to have that kind of situation, and it's going to affect the outcome of a major game, and it's going to be like, all right, why do we have that rule?
Kind of like last year from the playoffs?
Kind of like what? Like, yes, so many things from last year that were highly microscoped, and things like offside, and why that rule exists the way it exists, the way it can be reviewed and whatnot. And they tried to fix that this year with penalizing bad review challenges more, which I think has helped.
I think so.
One thing on changes that they've made, I have not seen the helmet issue come into play since opening night with McDavid.
Yeah. Of
where there was a big play that happened that the helmet issue came into play. I feel like players are strapping up a little bit tighter.
I think so.
So that it doesn't come off.
So I remember one of the first
nights... Which is what the league won.
Yeah. One of the first nights for the Flames, Frolik loses his helmet. Like, I think it went into the other team's bench. The other team's bench, hands it to him, because sportsmanship, and then he goes and scores a goal. It's like, oh, well, all right, then. But yeah, I forgot that rule even was a thing because I have not seen that at all recently.
I was say there's a player for the Red Wings who's losing helmet all the time, like all the time. It came off a couple times a game. I mean, the chin strap wasn't on or anything and whatnot. It hasn't come off this year.
Yeah,
not once that I've seen.
Into that.
So either gravity's working harder, or
they just turned up a couple notches in the rink.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe that's why they suck so bad.
That could be.
The gravity is heavier in Detroit.
That could be.
Huh. That's why it's so soul crushing to root for them. Anyway,
moving on. Yeah, I think it's a ticky-tacky, sticky situation for the refs, and yeah, and like you said, they are human, so we should probably cut them more slack than we do. But it's just so easy. It's so fun.
Yeah, because we can't control the players, but we can control the refs.
Right, naturally. And if not their other team probably paid them off or something, that's the easy go-to.
Or some sort of bias for East Coast teams, or certain players. Yeah. All right. So speaking of Crosby, who has gone for a while.
Yes, and a few others for the Penguins.
His team is still in the playoff picture.
Yeah.
There's a number of teams that are still in the playoff picture with major injuries.
Which is kind of scary.
Which is very scary because you look at St. Louis, they lost Tarasenko. And they're still, I believe, top of their division.
They're top of
the
division.
West, I believe. I think they're the best team in the West.
They are, 40 points.
Without a top-line forward. You have, obviously, everything that's happened in Colorado with Rantanen and Landeskog going down. You've lost 2/3 of your top line.
And then
they continue to be like third best or fourth best in the West.
Rantanen came back this weekend.
Rantanen came back
and had a monster game
and had 4 points since he came back. Just kind of like, okay, I'm back.
Yeah, I didn't start him in my fantasy because players come back from injuries usually kind of need a game or two, man.
Well, we learn our lessons the hard way.
Yeah. Well, the next time we'll do it, he'll poop the bed, so whatever.
Sure,
that's fine.
But no, you look at even take a team like Toronto. Tavares missed time. Now Marner's missing time, and eventually they're going to get all healthy and be a stronger team. You would think, more dangerous team.
Yeah.
Crosby's out right now. Malkin's back after his long off time. They just lost a couple more guys, I think, to injury this week. But again, there are other guys back that they lost a few months ago.
Like Carousel.
They continue to win games and be a strong team and are in the playoff hunt at 80% health, 75% health. When they get healthy, these are going to be some really, really good teams.
Which is pretty much why at the beginning of the season, I can't count out the Penguins until they
until the last game is played and they're actually outside the wild card. Yeah.
So just same thing.
So how does the playoff picture look as we stand today?
Okay. So in the East, you have Washington, the Islanders, Philly. You have Boston, Florida, and Toronto.
Interesting.
And the wild cards are currently Carolina and Pittsburgh.
Okay, so let's pause there. Carolina and Pittsburgh are both in the Metropolitan Division. They would currently be second in the Atlantic Division.
Oh, yeah.
If they were in the Atlantic, as opposed to both wildcards right now.
Yep.
So basically there are 5 teams in the Metropolitan that are stronger than the second. I said they were fast, and they're fast, but they're finding ways to win games.
Yeah, it's so weird.
I don't know if I can say that they're for real, but they've won the games that they've been allowed to play, and that's all you can ask of a team, regardless of what they are. They're playing well enough right now that you would think, barring major injuries, they should stay in the playoff hunt the rest of the year.
Yeah, they're just a point back of the Islanders.
I mean...
Well, the Islanders have way more games in hand, though, so never mind on that.
Buffalo pulled the Buffalo, and they fell out of this picture substantially.
But they're kind of roaring back right now.
They're hanging up, but you're still going to have to be better than Pittsburgh or Carolina. And Pittsburgh and Carolina can't give up any games in their division. So, like...
Carolina's 7-3 in their last 10.
Carolina has had an interesting season. I know Montreal has fallen off because they've gone on an 8-game losing streak as of right now, and they went from like right behind Boston to
they're in 5th wild card.
I mean, they've basically been stuck at 28 points for the past 3 weeks.
Yeah,
and everybody else around them has moved on.
They're currently ahead of. I mean, Tampa Bay has 3 games in hand, but they're sitting ahead of Tampa Bay right now.
Well, Tampa Bay with 3 games in hand, they're 1 point behind Montreal. So all you have to do is win one of those games, and you're a point better than them. If you win 2 of those games, you're right on the playoff bubble.
Yep.
And so I think Tampa Bay's probably going to they're getting things figured out.
I think so.
The fact that they're not in the playoff hunt right now, as it looks on paper, is just because of the fact that they haven't played as many games as the teams ahead of them have.
Yep.
Again, you can only gain points in the games that you play, and you can only play what the league says. Here's your schedule,
right?
And they've done what they can do. And yes, they're not looking like Tampa Bay of last year, but by the end of the season, they may very well be, and have gone through some of that adversity they were missing. So we'll see. We'll see. Western Conference.
So out of the Central, you have St. Louis, Colorado, and Winnipeg.
That's a shocker.
Yes, it is. They are 7-3 in the last 10.
They are taking somebody else's spot right now.
Yes, they are.
It's like, sir, you don't belong in this seat.
Nope, go away. Which, I mean, yeah, I don't think I'm anywhere near the playoffs in my predictions.
No, I'm pretty sure they were last in the Central in my book.
Yeah,
that or the Wild were one of the two.
Yeah, they were third to last in my book. 95 points and just missing it. Out of the Pacific, I mean, it's just all kinds of crazy.
Pacific is nuts.
Yes, Edmonton, Arizona, and San Jose. They've been finding it lately, which is awesome. It's just fine, whatever. 8-2 in the last 10. And then the current wild cards are Dallas and Vancouver, with Vegas and Calgary close behind.
Yep.
And Nashville, a couple games in hand, pretty close behind. And Minnesota.
Yeah, that's weird. Minnesota's on a tear right now.
Yeah.
Minnesota's played really well over late, and don't know where that came from. Don't think that's gonna stick.
No, I don't either.
And honestly, I think the Central is way too strong for them to get through.
Who's their coach?
Bruce Boudreau.
Thank you. I predicted him to be gone by the All-Star break, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
with that.
Yeah, but no, I'd say Winnipeg is a surprise. San Jose is a surprise now because they started off the year so poorly.
Correct.
San Jose being in this spot, if you told me they would be third in the Pacific at the quarter-way mark, I'd be like,
oh yeah, sure, that's
sure,
all right.
Yeah, probably right around Calgary and Vegas, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, Calgary and Vegas aren't in the playoffs right now. I'm like,
what?
So yeah, very very interesting. Dallas has come out of the gutter.
Yes.
Like last time we talked, San Jose and Dallas were teams like, wow, what's going on there? And they've put together a month of November and played really, really well, put themselves into playoff positions at this point, which I know people say Thanksgiving, the quarter-way mark, American Thanksgiving,
yes,
the quarter-way mark is kind of the point of like, well, you're either going to be in the playoffs or out of the playoffs kind of at this point. Teams don't move too much from here, which I say poo-poo to that because teams still positionally change a lot.
Yes. I think that maybe used to be more true.
I think it's an older school of thinking to where by this point teams are kind of set of we're good and you're not good and this is what it is. The league is so close right now that the Rangers could go on a run and they could be second in their division.
Edmonton 29 games played, 37 points. San Jose 28 games played, 31 points, and Arizona's in the middle, 28 games, 34 points. But then you have Vancouver 28 and 30, you have Vegas 28 and 30. You have Calgary 29 and 30.
Yeah.
So I mean, one of those teams goes on a hot streak, the other goes on a cold streak.
Yeah.
Flip flop right there. So I think there is more parity than there used to be, which is good for us. Unless you're team involved, then it's not so good for us.
I'm wondering where the parity is in this league on the Red Wings right now because I don't feel very paired with anybody.
The Kings?
Other than the toilet. Like that's where we're paired with right now. And it's by a long shot. So long as we're looking at playoff pictures and these teams, the Red Wings have last place by 5 points right now.
Yep.
But the team that's next to them actually has 4 games in hand to get further away from them.
Ouch.
That's how
that's a little alarming.
Trash that they have been.
But you kind of expected it though, right?
Well, I expected them to do bad, but I expected them to be competitive.
Yeah.
Competitively bad. There's a difference between bad and being competitively bad, and they are just bad. In fact, they're awful.
Yeah, which is what like the guys on the podcast were saying last year about the Ducks and the Kings. The product they were putting on the ice is just So
but they're on pace right now, I think, to break certainly their team's record of lowest points in a season, and maybe even like a league record. Like I know there was a year where Colorado had like 48 points. And the Red Wings are on pace right now, I believe, to get like right around 50. And actually, with the last couple of losses, they're probably in that mid-40 range right now.
So are they going to be the low-hanging fruit for the graveyard chop for you?
Yeah, let's go to the graveyard where we bury 2 teams each month as we head towards the playoffs. And I would definitely be okay burying Detroit because I do believe Detroit is dead.
I would agree.
In many, many ways. We probably could have buried them last month, quite frankly, but it was a little too early in the season to bury people. Now, not so much.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Detroit as well.
Okay. And then if we're going to go to the Western Conference side of this graveyard, who are you going to bury in the Western Conference?
I'm going to take the Kings.
I would take the Kings as well. We didn't expect much from them this year.
Nope.
They haven't given us much this year.
Nope. Well, the only time they show up is against the Flames, which is like super annoying.
Well, you got some good drama between a couple players there, so you know you get up for your enemies.
I guess.
And you get down for your friends, I guess.
I guess. But whatever. So yeah, that's what I would say. I agree with that. So basically, kind of expand on it is basically it's our lock for these 2 teams are not going to make the playoffs no matter what happens.
Agreed. They're not pulling a St. Louis Blues.
No.
No, they're not. They're not doing anything magical this year.
So yeah, next month we'll pick 2 more teams on top of these 2 teams and kind of slowly whittle it down. Right. As obviously as we get closer, it'll be a little more dicey as to who.
It'll be a little bit more harder to tell in like February and eliminate a team like, well, but they're still only 7 points out from a playoff spot. It's
there won't be this nice low-hanging
It's easy right now.
Yes,
it's easy right now. Like the bodies are cold. It's easy to bury them.
Oh yeah, what? This one hasn't been buried yet.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So that's burying for now. Looking forward to the next month.
Yep, me too.
We have there's talk of Taylor Hall being moved out of New Jersey.
Yeah, I would say.
Which makes sense. So Taylor Hall is arguably their best player. Probably not even arguably. Their best player. One of the better players in the league historically.
Correct.
And is going to be a unrestricted free agent contractually at the end of this year.
If you're not in Jersey and you don't move him before the trade deadline, you're insane.
Yes.
You got to get something for him.
Yes, because otherwise he'll go to free agency, and unless he re-signs with you, which he could re-sign with you right now at any point he wanted to.
Which, I don't see that happening like at all unless it makes some kind of ridiculous offer, and even then it's like, no.
You have to crazy overpay for him,
which is
and
bad.
Still not have a good team.
Yes.
Because what you did in the offseason didn't work the way you were hoping it would, and you need to do some more rebuilding, probably changing coach, trading away some players, getting some more draft picks.
Right.
Getting younger before you get better. I think New Jersey was hoping that they were close, and they're realizing they are not close to the way they are currently structured, and they need some major things. So, where would be a good place for Taylor Hall to end up?
I think we've talked. I think kind of agree. I can see him going to the Blues, although right now they might not want to mess with it. I've also heard like Colorado, but same thing. They might not want to mess with it. Definitely not coming to Calgary.
No.
Don't have the space. Don't want the headache. For what we'd have to get for him, it would be worth it to be the same situation. So,
because the hard thing with Taylor Hall is, okay, do you either rent him and you don't have to give him as much, but then he's going to go to free agency in the offseason and you're not going to get him back,
right?
Or do you give up a lot for him and get him to sign a 7-8 year deal with your team, put him into his late 30s?
Because those always work out so well.
I mean, they're nice now if you're ready to win cups right now. And I imagine Taylor Hall wants to go somewhere he can win cups right now.
Oh, yeah.
He's won the Hart Trophy. He's wants to play in the playoffs. He wants to play for a good team. He wants to compete for cups for the rest of his life. 4 or 5 first overall picks. Yeah. I'd love for Detroit to trade for him because then we would actually get the first pick that we were trying so hard to earn.
Yes.
But I would say for Taylor Hall, if you are the Devils, you're probably not trading him in division.
No.
So Washington, Islanders, Philadelphia, even though Philadelphia would be an interesting place for him. Carolina, Pittsburgh, the Rangers, and Columbus. And Columbus is probably crazy enough to try that kind of mess again, but they're not in that position this year.
No.
So I would take all those teams off the table.
Yep. Can you imagine going to Toronto?
I mean, it would be for Nylander or something like that.
Right, yeah.
You know, because just financially, there's only so many teams that could afford to pay Taylor Hall what he's worth right now and still hope to sign him to a long-term deal going forward and have the draft picks or prospects to give up to get him for that long-term deal. Somebody could get him probably cheap, and that's in quotation marks, for the year and let him go to free agency, but at least have a shot at him. And I can see where Taylor Hall would be interested in doing that, just from the standpoint of I can get paid more if I go to a playoff team, play in the playoffs, get some playoff footage on my record, and be this now only big free agent, big fish to get, because you saw the money Carlson got, you saw the money Marner got.
Ridiculous.
Like, the amount of money some teams will throw at these players is crazy. I think he's going to want to go somewhere that can win, so he's not going to go to Columbus and make $13 million a year in Columbus. I think he probably wants to go to a contender and take
a little bit
market value.
Yeah. Which, right. Honestly, that makes sense to me. So.
I would say neither Boston nor Toronto are the kind of teams that could take him. I don't think Tampa Bay has the space to take him.
Nope.
I don't think he would go to Ottawa. But potentially Montreal. Florida, I think, is an interesting option because I believe they do have some cap space.
I can see Florida.
And that's a team that, again, is trying to get better. And I feel like Florida, if they got towards the trade deadline and were competitive like people thought they would be this year, they have the space to make a move. And I think they wanted Panarin in the offseason. They needed a top-line winger.
I mean, they got the second seed in the Atlantic right now.
Florida's in a playoff position right now. It's like, if you could, as Florida, bolster your offense right now and bring in another star player and not give up a ton, I can see where you might even be able to convince him to stay.
Yeah,
Florida's a nice place. Like, if you were drafted into Edmonton and now you're in New York, Florida might be a really nice place. Because like they didn't get Panarin, and so they're still got to be looking for a top line winger, which Hall is. I could see Florida as a potential if they could work something out. But I can also see if you're New Jersey, you just want to send them to the Western Conference.
As far west as you can get them.
But again, if he signs as a free agent in the offseason, it doesn't really matter because he'll go anywhere he wants.
Maybe
Dallas is a very interesting landing place for him because that is a team that is in the playoffs as it currently stands, and could really benefit from another big player.
Oh yeah.
Even though I feel like they already have a lot of big players. What they would have to give up to get him, I don't know for sure. I do think St. Louis or Colorado would be a great spot for him.
Yep.
But no, I wouldn't. I know there's talk of him going back to Edmonton. I don't know that you could,
see that happening.
As a alpha male,
I don't see that happening at all.
Go back and take a second line role with the team that you were an alpha male with. At this point in your career, because you're not going to make more than the guys on the top line. You're not going to come in and make more than McDavid. You might make Draisaitl money, which is like 8.5, which Taylor Hall is going to be worth way more than 8.5 in the open market. So maybe they rent him in Edmonton and then he leaves Edmonton again, which would be hilarious.
Yeah. No, I don't see him going back to Edmonton at all.
But no, it'll be very interesting to see where he lands and for how long he lands there. Because I'm still kind of hoping that we have this off season of Taylor Hall sweepstakes. Because unless you have that going in the off season, it's kind of like it's kind of a boring off season. You want those big free agent sweepstakes,
right?
And I think the players want that more and more because they're seeing how that works in the NBA.
Oh yeah.
And it makes an intriguing off season. So
it does.
We'll see how he goes this month. It's not like he's playing amazing, so let that be what it is. And
I agree. So that'll definitely be something.
Another good month of hockey, and Merry Christmas to you all.
See here. So hopefully we get some more fun stuff to talk about. Hopefully some actual fun stuff to talk about, and not
controversies.
Yeah. So I think anything else from you?
Just keep watching hockey. There's nothing better.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is the hockey podcast that you're about to hear, which you just did. My name is Justin.
My name is Alexander.
And thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time.